Hey everybody, welcome back to At the Buzzer. We're joined, as always, by Jack Tiernan, who's here to talk a little bit about the Celtics' adversaries, you could say, starting off with Ben Simmons and then moving to Kyrie Irving. Jack, how you doing?
I'm good, Brian. How are you?
Doing quite well, especially because we get to talk shit about,
Oh,
teams we
yes.
might not like, or particularly players. Not that I have anything necessarily against Ben Simmons, but Kyrie Irving, that's a whole nother story.
Oh, of course.
So let's start with Ben Simmons. It's been on the minds of pretty much every basketball commentator I've seen today. Ben Simmons absolutely disappeared in the fourth quarter
Dude,
of the
oh my God.
series with the Atlanta Hawks for the 76ers. What are your opinions on his performance in this series?
I don't think, as a lifelong Sixers hater, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think if you've ever seen the show Catfish, right? Ben Simmons
Yep.
catfished all of the 76ers upper management.
Mm-hmm.
He's not as advertised. He's trash. He can't shoot. Um, and he shot like four times in the last three games in the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, in three games total. That's not an average, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is in that period of time. That
Yeah,
that is abysmal. That is
I think
so bad.
I think it's really topped off by the clip of him not dunking a ball,
Oh God,
presumably to
yeah.
avoid getting fouled. But Jack, what was that? I mean, talk a little bit about his foul struggles in context
That
of that. But
oh my God. That in particular, that
mm,
experience or that happenstance, whatever you want to call it, was at that point so obvious that Simmons is in his own head to the
mm,
point that he may not be able to be fixed.
yeah,
And that, as I'm sure this would trigger Sixers fans, goes back to Markelle Fultz, where the same kind of thing happened, where Markelle Fultz was like, again, pretty much highly touted number one overall pick.
mm,
Danny Ainge, of course, will toot our own horn for a little bit, traded down to get Jason Tatum, who's
mm.
definitely better than Markelle Fultz.
I would say
Um,
so.
I, I
I think
think I
that's
think
a controversial
statistically,
statement.
that might be a hot take. And now they have a number one pick who doesn't even want to shoot from within 2 feet of the basket,
Mm,
right? Like, what's even he good for at this point? Just set pick and rolls with Joel, like that's
mm,
it. Um, but yeah, man, I don't even know. I think he finessed Sixers management for a
mm,
max deal that doesn't even start until next year. So let's not even
mm,
talk about
mm.
that. That's a nightmare. Um,
Yeah.
Sixers are cooked. They're stuck with a really bad contract for a really long
Mm.
time, and Joel Embiid, who is always seemingly hurt when it matters most. So,
Yeah, no. So
luck.
like you said, terrible contract. I saw a lot of people kind of mocking like, what would it take not for a team to acquire Ben Simmons? What would it take for the 76ers to give him away? And
Literally,
they were saying like they will have to trade a first round pick because of the contract
yeah.
to another team just to get Ben Simmons off the books, off the team. Like, is there any like way that this turns around for Ben Simmons, or do you think this is just like over for him at this point? It like
Man, he needs to. It's really, I think, at this point a mental thing because he still has. He's 6'10". He is a decent guard for what it's worth.
mm,
He can run an offense when he's able to draw defenders, but he can't shoot from anywhere outside of like 5 feet. So that's
mm,
tough to do. I think if you're looking at potential trade partners, though, right? There could be. I think Houston is one opportunity.
mm,
Depending on how the Nets feel about Kyrie, they could do something
mm,
potentially. I would not like to see Joel Embiid and Kyrie Irving on the same team. Um, I think dark horse could actually be the Miami Heat because you have
mm,
Dragic getting old. They could definitely take some picks off their hands and continue this upward trajectory that they're on right now.
mm.
Um, I don't know, man. I don't know if Simmons can turn it around, and I especially don't know if he has the motivation to do so. And that's the biggest hurdle for him.
Yeah. So I guess at this point, Jack, can we say that the process cannot be trusted and that that experiment is over now?
I think
Like
it's done.
it's been so long.
I think it's done.
Mm,
This is a really long process. This has been, I think, 7 or 8 years in the making now, and it's
mm,
just it has been Joel Embiid carrying these like B and C tier guys, and Ben Simmons, who I think at the beginning of the playoffs you would have said sure, probably like definitely the second best guy on the team. Now you're like, is he even the fourth best guy on the team? Like, I would probably take Seth Curry and Tobias Harris over him almost hands down at this point. It probably puts him fourth, and I don't think he has anything left to give the Sixers, and I think that with his contract means that essentially they're screwed. They've got to blow it up and start fresh.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know how to necessarily feel about this. Obviously, Doc Rivers gave us, a championship, helped us with the big three.
Right.
A lot of people are getting on him. How much do you think, like, his failures, not just this year, but we've seen them with the Clippers,
Right.
in previous years. How much does this lay at his feet? And what do you think the 76ers are going to do, 1 year in with Doc?
Right. I think it would be not smart of them to dump Doc so quickly, right? I think you realize that Ben was on the roster when Doc came. I really think more of this falls on Ben's shoulders than Doc. Because as your point guard, your job is to score, facilitate, draw defenders, so you can facilitate. But if you can't, you're such an offensive liability that you can't be out there in the fourth quarter. As a head coach, that's tough to game plan around if your starting point guard can't be out there, right? So
Right.
I think if anything, you have to dump Simmons this offseason. You see what Doc can do with the new roster, and if he still stinks, I think then it's time to maybe talk about, okay, this is probably Doc's fault.
Right.
Going back to what was it? Going back to this coming off season, do the Sixers trade Joel? You think that's I think maybe a hot take on my part. I think he is MVP caliber player, and I don't think he's probably traded. But like, if they're blowing up, do they have to compensate for the draft picks they have to give up with Simmons? Right? Do they need to get something back for that? I'm sure a team would give up a king's ransom to get Joel Embiid. So
yeah, I mean, it's just like last year was a brutal exit at the hands of the Celtics.
Right.
Just want to throw that in for the Sixers. This one probably even more heartbreaking, considering that.
Right.
I mean, the Hawks, they're obviously a good team. They're in the Eastern Conference Finals. They're a good team. But
they're streaky. Yeah.
yeah, like you if you were looking at this matchup on paper beforehand, you would, and especially with the way Trae Young played in this game, you'd be like, yeah, the 76ers are going to win this series. They're going to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, and it just did not happen. So, I mean, a lot of questions for Philadelphia. I saw a tweet that brought up a great point that in the time that the process occurred, both the Celtics and the Hawks have gone to the Eastern Conference Finals with completely different teams. Like,
oh my god, dude.
That's
oh
so
my god.
insane.
You think about Isaiah Thomas, and then you think about Jason Tatum. Those are two very different teams, right? And then with the Hawks, who was Trae Young 5 years ago, right?
Yeah, I think like the best player was Al Horford, who we'll talk about later.
Right. Yeah, true that. I just can't believe that. I think Doc's biggest issue, back to him, is that his in-game adjustments are bad or like rigid at best. Because you look back at last year's Clippers, who didn't make it out of the second round, and now they're in the Western Conference Finals.
Right.
And you look at the Sixers, who were in the Eastern Conference. No, they were not. They were in the second round.
Yeah.
But they certainly looked better than this.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. Is this a Doc problem or is it a Ben problem? I still think Ben, but I think Doc does have to take some of the blame here.
Yeah. All right. So, unless you have anything else you want to talk about the Sixers, do you want to move on to Kyrie and what else came out?
Let me give some respect to Seth Curry, dude. That dude was the perfect Robin to Ben Simmons, Dollar General Batman, I guess. But he could shoot the lights out a couple of games. He's not Steph, but he certainly was doing his part to put the offense on his shoulders, so Joel isn't getting doubled and tripled under the basket, right? So I think props to him. I think you want to probably keep that piece going forward. But I don't know, man. 76ers are in for a wild offseason, and I'm pumped to watch it unfold.
Me too. So would that be the George Clooney Batman suit with nipples version of Batman?
Yeah, like literally the cringiest Batman you could imagine, and that's Ben Simmons. Except like he won't actually fight any bad guys. He just like sits in his house, and that's it.
tough stuff. You can be playing PUBG. I saw that clip going around.
Oh yeah, PUBG.
A few seasons ago, when they were
Be a
like,
great
"Oh, I need
guard.
to get off." Oh, who are you playing? The Hawks. And they're like, "Oh, you don't need to get off." Like,
Oh.
very poorly.
Yeah, it did. Oh no, I didn't see that. I can't wait. I'm gonna go watch that though. I
Yeah, I'll
cannot
send you the
wait.
clip if I can find it.
Please.
It was a
I
funny
think
one.
he'll be a great starting guard for the Shanghai Sharks next year. So it'll be interesting to watch.
Yes. Hey, maybe he'll actually take some shots in the fourth quarter.
Maybe we'll see.
Pressure's a little less.
I think so. I think so.
Oh man! All right. So, what is happening with Kyrie Irving? Are you saying he's maybe causing friction with an organization? That
Yeah.
sounds
Now,
like him.
stop me if you've heard this before, right? But Kyrie Irving has apparently pissed off that's upper management. Surprisingly enough, definitely nothing to do with his off-court antics, or definitely nothing to do with his on-court antics. But yeah, Kyrie, surprise, surprise, is being a pain in the ass again, and Nets are not happy about it.
Oh boy! All right. I mean, I understand the frustration for the Nets owner. I mean,
Oh yeah,
owners, everyone in charge. Like, I think one of the first discussions we had on At the Buzzer was like, the Nets are inevitable coming out of the Eastern Conference, and
Yeah.
they didn't even make it out of the second round. So, I mean, what is happening here?
we can talk about. I will give credit to Kevin Durant, who scored the most points ever in a Game 7. I hate Kevin Durant as a person. I think he's a rock solid, probably one of the best offensive players ever to play the game, potentially the best. But dude, his big toe, man, his big toe is on that 3 line. If he hit that shot from behind the line, that's it. Nets are going to the Eastern Conference Finals. But back to Kyrie, who I don't know how much you kept up with the Nets this regular season, but Kyrie all the time was like, he's gone for a week for personal reasons, and then it was the week following, same thing, or his big toe was sore, like just some weird mercurial excuses that I think a lot of Boston fans and potentially even some Cleveland fans are kind of like, okay, well here he comes again, like Kyrie Irving, surprise, surprise.
Right.
And they're kind of pissed because of that chemistry wasn't necessarily always there. You never really had all 3 stars at the same time, especially because Harden didn't get there until halfway through the season. Now it's like, okay, you wanted to build the super team, Kyrie, and like, where are you now that it matters most?
Right.
Again,
I mean,
probably if you've heard this before, but
right. Yeah, I mean, that was definitely a problem with when he was on the Celtics, just not being available. I mean, it's hard because, like, injuries are going to happen, right? Like, you can't necessarily prevent injuries from happening, and it's a hard line to cross as people who just like talk about sports. We're not professional athletes. Like, we couldn't do anything, Kyrie. Yeah, I'm trying to just cover all potential comments, but I think it's a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. The best ability is availability, and if you're not available, you can't affect it. And I mean, he hit that game-winning shot for Cleveland, but he also missed another season where they could have made a run in another finals. Like, he was not available in the Eastern Conference Finals for the Celtics, on one of the Celtics' probably best chances to win a championship since the Big Three left us. And now again he's injured, and it's bad luck, but it's a certain point where it's like, how do you weigh bad luck not being available versus like the potential personality friction that he causes, and just not seeing success generally?
That's exactly it. With Kyrie's personality, right? I think I said this probably as soon as it was like Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are going to team up and pick a place, right?
Right.
These are probably 2 of the softest dudes in the NBA, right? I don't know if they are able to manage their egos enough to continue to play together. I think James Harden is going to be put in a weird position if either of them start going at each other, right? Because essentially, whatever side he takes, the other dude's getting ousted. I don't know, man. I think you're right. These are some soft dudes on the Nets. I don't know how they're going to turn out in the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting in 2 years when is James Harden and Russell Westbrook probably on the Nets, and the other.
Oh my God, dude! Yeah, they're like, who knows? Kevin Durant's probably like back in OKC, or like for the Rockets. Like just some random ass teams just probably unloading the contract. I don't know, man.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Jags, anything else you want to touch on before we get on out of here for this episode as I slam my fist into the desk?
No, it's probably how Nets upper brass feels about Kyrie too, though. So I get it. I get it. Yeah. I mean, they knew what they were getting, man. I don't know. They were certainly warned by Boston media, who definitely is tough. But here we go again. It's surprise, surprise. Kyrie is causing a ruckus. So no, that's it. I hate Kyrie too. This is a great anger episode for me, right? Let it all out. Let it all out.
Oh man, yeah. As you say, no one in Boston is necessarily surprised that this was the ultimate outcome of the season. Oh. Maybe next year it'll be better. We'll see. And yeah, I guess other than that, where can they find you online?
Yeah, so you'll find my Celtics takes most likely on Twitter at Jack_Tiernan. Definitely posting NBA playoff stuff as we continue on through that.
Yeah, I mean, it is exciting stuff. Go follow Jack, obviously. I mean, we don't have the big markets. We don't have necessarily the marquee names, but I do think, the Western Conference, one of those two teams are going to be able to play for the finals. Neither of them have ever won. And in the Eastern Conference, it's been a really long time since, the Atlanta Hawks were the St. Louis Hawks, and the Bucks haven't won since 1971. So I do think if you're a basketball fan, there are reasons to keep watching.
I completely agree.
Don't just go away because of the names,
Real, dude. You got Devin Booker and hopefully Chris Paul back soon, right? So these are some fun teams to watch, definitely.
So we'll obviously keep an eye on it, and we hope that you'll keep watching this. Thank you for watching Wicked Sports, and we'll see you in the next one.